You give me a hard time.
If
I think I nailed
betting.net
it.
is happy, then we all should be happy.
I think I nailed it.
They are the bosses. So whatever if they agree with your introduction,
I mean, who wouldn't like that
then
opening?
you should accept it.
Hey, let's get into the show. Real quick, let's do a recap of the Xfinity race this week at Dover before we get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. Josh Berry won this week at Dover in the Xfinity Series. That series is currently led by Josh Berry, followed by Justin Allgaier, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, and Sam Meyer. Does anybody want to add anything on the Xfinity race before we move on?
It was a really good day if you like junior motorsports.
It was. What they finished 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 5.
1, 2, 3, 5.
Ty Gibbs was in the top 5.
Oh yeah, he was. That son of a bitch.
Which I think is gonna catapult him more so into wanting junior motorsports to go cup racing here next year. So you may see a new team. I think the hardest part for junior motorsports is going to be acquiring badges or certificates.
I think if Ty Gibbs keeps running well, it's going to be hard for Grandpa not to give him a car next year. What do you think?
Well, I think if JR Motorsports goes cup racing, I think you'll see a lot of other drivers step up and come racing for him. There'll be some bona fide cup drivers already in there. Ty Gibbs has certainly, earned his stripes as much as Austin Cedric has. But is Gibbs going to walk away from Joe Gibbs Racing?
No, Grandpa's going to give him a car. He's going to give him Kyle's car.
Yeah, that's right. Kyle's, where it sounds like Truex may be on the outs now too.
Yeah, they're talking about Truex going in the Hall of Fame in 2 years.
Okay.
So who knows?
I think you can see JR Motorsports in the Cup racing next year.
Yeah, I think that may be a possibility.
For charters, getting the charters is the hardest point. No, I don't think NASCAR is becoming lucrative enough right now that I don't think they want to give up the charters. Anybody does.
Yeah,
they would be. They'd be under Hendrick because they already supply a lot of stuff. Hendrick supplies a lot of stuff to JR Motorsports right now. So
yeah, but Hendrick can't supply them charters.
Well, they can supply a ride the same way that the Wood Brothers does with Penske. I think it would be a one vehicle like Wood Brothers Racing, and then it'd be Hendrick supplying that one team race car if that's the way they decide to go. Mm-hmm.
So Hendrick has 5 cars, right? He's only running 4 of them. It's a 5-car charter, right?
No, they don't have there is no 5-car charter.
There's not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I thought they had an extra spot.
Charters are a one-on-one deal, and you had to buy them. And
right,
now,
but what? Okay.
What's happening now with charters is they're either going for Big Jack, but most people won't sell them. They'll lease them to you.
Right. What I meant is Hendrick has 5 charters, though, right? Or he does not.
I do not know that if they have 5 charters or not. That's a question for Analytical Joe.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up because that's a good question that I don't know. But let's move on from the Xfinity Series because at the end of the day, there's very few people that actually care. So let's get into our.
It poses a good question, though. Wouldn't it be silly for NASCAR to sell 5 charters to the big teams? That defeats the whole purpose of having a charter. The charter was to guarantee the smaller teams also were guaranteed a spot in the races and not just the big teams. So if you sell 5 of them to Hendrick, 5 of them to Gibbs, 5 of them to Penske, and all of a sudden those 3 teams are sitting on 15 of the 36 charters that were sold, that's half of them. That doesn't allow much for smaller teams to get in. So that would defeat the entire purpose of the charter system. Other than put more money in the Francis pocket to say you have a right to come and wreck your cars on our tracks and spend your money so we can make a lot of profit off you.
Looking at you, Rick Ware.
Yeah.
Me?
No, Rick Ware. Said spending a lot of money to wreck cars. That's what Rick Ware Racing's.
There's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of guys out there who don't deserve charters because they do that well.
Yeah.
Frankly, I think Austin Dillon and Bubba Wallace are on that list too.
Right.
All right, so that's enough of
No,
charting.
I can't find it right off the top here from a search. Let's move on to our picks for this week. Which before we get into these, I do want to let you know that I beat you all pretty handily this week. Still leading in points, but Ryan, you picked for the Dover race Reddick, Truex Jr., Byron, Larson, and Chastain. You received 1 point for Larson and 2 points for Ross Chastain, giving you a weekly total of 3 points. Great job. Actually, not a bad week, really.
Well, considered Martin Truex Jr. said F everybody in the last turn on our picks. So
yeah.
It had been a 5-point week would have looked really good until Ross Chastain got under his skin enough for him to cause a wreck on the last turn.
Well, yeah.
I saw that again today. I think that was self-inflicted on Truex's part.
It was. He was
100%.
100%.
He was pushing way too hard.
Chastain had nothing. Did not need to be talked to. Truex needs to get his glasses checked because he just blatantly rear-ended the guy and wrecked his own car doing it and propelled Chastain up into third place.
Yep.
So that was self-inflicted wound right there.
I agree. Running way too hard, you push it to the limit, and you push it as hard as you can till you can't anymore, and he couldn't. So, Steve, you picked Larson, Elliott, Byron, Logano, and Blaney. You got 5 points for. You got 5 points for Elliott. You got 1 point for Larson. The rest of your drivers finished in the top 35.
Yeah,
and
I got that going for me.
And
they used their charters.
That's right. You came out of the week with 6 points.
Yeah, thank God for the 9 car.
Again, not a bad week. Not a bad week at all.
Well, it is however, the fact that Elliott managed to get his first win of the year. Otherwise, I'd make Ryan look like a superstar.
Well, I did save the best. I did save the best for last. This week, I picked Larson, Harvick, Truex, Elliott, Alex Bowman. So, I got 5 points for Elliott, 2 points for Bowman, 1 point for Harvick, and 1 point for Larson. I came out of the week with 9 points. Currently on the season, I am leading with 36 points. Steve, you have 30, and Ryan, you have 25. But as always, there is a caveat, Ryan. You didn't get to pick the first 2 weeks, but I still think with my excellent performance over the last 3 weeks or so, you would still be losing.
Well, and on top of it, I got to do a little pride swallowing here. I gave you a little bit of shit for picking Harvick. Bet you $5 that he would finish below one of my drivers, and he most certainly did not. So that was a good pick for Harvick to come through and Tyler Reddick to try to avoid the wall on the left and right side of the track the entire day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
And Ryan, I wanted to make a proposal here on the driver picks. I thought we all should be able to grandfather one driver. Meaning, this guy just sucks off my Chase Elliott affiliation and scores points. I should be
Horseshit, Steve.
If I call Chase Elliott my grandfather, you take Kyle Busch or whoever you want, and I take Chase, and he takes whatever driver he wants. You cannot pick that driver because that's a grandfather driver by any one of the one who took it. Like Steve, Elliott, I would grandfather Chase Elliott. He doesn't win. He's got one win.
I think 1 week. I think 1 week, and maybe we could do it for the All-Star race where we do a snake, where on the show, whoever Joe right now would be winning. Joe gets first pick, then Steve, you get second. I get 2 picks, then back and forth. That way, none of us have the same drivers. Maybe we could do something like that for the All-Star weekend.
No, because that bastard would take Chase Elliott just to piss me off.
No. Well,
he might.
It depends.
Because
Then I turn around and take Kyle Busch.
Shut up for a minute. Listen.
That won't work.
First of all, Steve, I'm going to address your point first, and then I'll address Ryan. We'll try to do this with some decorum here. Steve, I think your idea is horse shit. Ryan?
That's decorum.
Ryan, I would not be opposed to that in a race that actually doesn't matter.
Right.
But Steve, in all reality, Steve, I think that's the reason why I think that's horseshit is because I actually put thought into who I'm going to pick each week, and actually write an article for the Grueling Truth that can be found on thegruelingtruth.com.
Oh, shameless plug! Wow.
Whoa.
Are we just, all we've heard now for the last 5 minutes is his self-professing, I'm in the points lead. I write an article. Ryan, what are you and I? Just fucking chopped liver? I guess we're the panelists.
Hell, I can't even watch the race on time.
Instead of Steve and his panelists, I guess it's
the avid followers.
Imbeciles now.
No, Steve, the avid followers of my article, which are many, cannot be hamstrung by
Spilman.
The avid followers of my article cannot be hamstrung by taking away a quality driver from me each week. As you know,
well, I didn't say you can't talk about him.
Well, I got to pick him.
You just can't pick him in our points deal. That's all.
No, I can't do that. I mean, you play to win, Steve. You play to win.
All right.
I will, however, concede to you that the person leading in points can pick their drivers first every week. How's that?
But it don't matter if we all can pick the same guy.
Yeah, what's the matter?
We all need to be able to pick the same guy. That's part of the game. And when I get up on you and out of reach, the last 7 or 8 races
I think we're losing people right now. I get your point. Move on. I want
to make this, Steve. I want to make this point. The last 7 or 8 races or so, I'm just going to go ahead and pick the exact same drivers that you picked, just so you can't catch me.
That's what I would expect you to do. I had a chance to win a football pool against Goodpaster, and I didn't do that. I picked opposite of him. Whoever he took, I said, I'm not going to pick the same guy, because if I pick the same guy, you can't catch me, and I win the pool.
And you went down.
He took the Bengals, and I took the Rams, and the Rams won the game but didn't cover the spread. So I lost because they didn't cover the spread. But I said, I'm not going to take the Bengals in the spread. I should have done that. And he would have lost. But, and then he goes around bragging about, I'm still undefeated in the football pool. So
he calls himself the Tom Brady of the NFL Pick'em show.
Whatever.
Seven-time champion.
Let's get into the race.
Well, before we get into the race, Steve.
We'll make our picks later on.
Yeah, let's talk about a little news throughout NASCAR here. Racing in general. Did either one of you guys catch what happened to Kyle Larson at Bristol Friday night? Read about it, hear about it?
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. So to fill you in, Kyle Larson was racing the dirt race at Bristol this past week. He was running late models and sprint cars. And he had just finished up a heat race in his sprint car, had to hustle over, get in his late model, and get back out on the track for the feature of the late model. Anyway, because he had to make a car transition, he was late for driver call to get out on the track, and he was penalized by the World of Outlaws. They sent him to the back of the pack. Well, throughout that, and I'm not even sure how many laps the feature was, but throughout that feature, he gained 22 plus spots, got back up into contention to win in second place. The last turn, he blows a tire, ends up into the wall. So he almost came back out and won the damn thing, right? So he gets interviewed at the end of the race, and I think this is the first time where we ever really heard Kyle Larson in public kind of lose his shit a little bit. Basically blasting the World of Outlaws.
You obviously didn't hear him talk on the iRacing series thing. He kind of really lost his shit on that one.
Yeah, he did. So
some would say he lost everything at one point.
Yeah, it's lost a year of his NASCAR career on that one.
That was, in my opinion, that was a little bit different. I think, still to this day, I think he got caught up playing a game.
Wasn't fueled by anger. I get what you're saying. It wasn't combat, yeah.
Right. But he lost his shit.
I wouldn't anything except Budweiser is all it was fueled by.
So, he pretty much condemned the World of Outlaws, said this is why people are leaving your series. Big name drivers are leaving your series. And, and I forget the exact quote, but he said that he was the only one there running 2 cars doing double duty, and I just wanted to bring that up because I thought it was a kind of a big story that was overlooked a little bit because it happened in the World of Outlaws. Steve, what did you see it or care?
No,
Or?
no. I mean, I heard the same thing. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, I don't. What I don't know enough about really to make an intelligent comment on it because I don't know what their rules are. If it specifically says you cannot miss the driver introductions or the driver to your car for any reason, period, then he's guilty. He missed it for a reason. We may think it's legit, but they have their rules too. So if that was a rule, no exceptions, no excuses for missing. He missed it. He's penalized.
Okay,
I'm sure at some point we're going to talk about the losing a tire issue now, and
we are.
Is the penalty too serious for that? I don't know, but if it's just a vague gray rule, I would see no reason why they would want to punish Larson because he's doing them a favor much more than the World of Outlaws or anybody's doing Kyle a favor, because Kyle could easily just fly his plane home, get some rest, and prepare for Darlington and continue to focus on winning the Cup because he's not exactly on fire right now. So he went down there to I don't think his whole purpose of going down there was to support and help World of Outlaws and everything down there. He just wanted to go race. That's what he loves to do, and he overcame it. He got to second place. So I think we're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill there, truthfully.
No, yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because it was kind of big news, I thought, this weekend. But you're right. It did get a little bit of press, but as you know, most things on World of Outlaws and Dirt don't really, unless it's something that's huge that happens, don't really turn into much. I just wanted to bring it up because I did see it. I wouldn't even call it a rant.
You want a real suggestion here? Don't mention World of Outlaws to Goodpaster, or he'll whip out one of his 3 AK-47s.
Yeah, that he carries in the back of his truck.
He carries in the back of his truck. Yeah,
on a gun rack.
Yeah, we know that all too well.
Shit. Well, let's move on from that because I just wanted to bring it up. Like I said, not really that big of news. Before we get into the race, though,
yeah, I'll tell you what, you're like TMZ sometimes. You just bring out the shit news.
Jesus Christ, Steve.
TMZ is not sponsored.
Let's throw somebody down. I listened to Savannah Guthrie interview Bill Gates this morning about his pandemic plan. Well, no, about his idea for the pandemic. He's got some success with what he's wanted to do, and he's willing to put tens of billions of dollars up. Buffett's willing to put tens of billions of dollars up. And all she wants to talk about is his divorce and the juicy inside stuff on his divorce. I'm thinking, this is a national TV show, and this is a private matter. Shut the hell up, Savannah.
Yeah. Well,
get off of it.
When you talk about
Bill, 5-minute interview with him, 3 minutes of it was about her trying to pry questions out of him.
And I understand, Steve, because you already lost me because you're talking about Bill Gates and Warren Buffett putting up tens of billions of dollars. And if they're going to do that, it can't be for anything good. But
no, it must be that you live on a police officer's salary.
Ryan.
Yo.
Cody Ware takes out Denny Hamlin at the end of the race. Lap car. For the second week in a row, Cody Ware has caused an issue with somebody that's actually in the hunt for the race. Of course, I think at the end of the race, we were talking about taking out Denny Hamlin. It wasn't intentional by Cody Ware. However, I think it was an inexperienced driver not knowing to get the hell out of the way. And this being the second huge issue that has cost somebody a good day, potentially. Do you think that there should be any repercussions for Cody Ware?
No, I think that after what we saw in practice when you had William Byron hit the wall, you also had Josh Bilicki. But Dover's a racetrack that requires a lot of skill, and even the best had a hard time. I mean, we'll mention people that did not have really good races at all. And I think Cody Ware just ended up losing the back end. And with these cars, that's easier to do. Now, if it was a different track that's not nearly as challenging, I would maybe have a different tone. But at the end of the day, everybody was having issues at Dover middle to late in the field. Do we give the same shit to Tyler Reddick because he legitimately was just hitting the wall back and forth like he was playing skee ball? I mean, probably not. So, I think he did his best Anthony Alfredo impression, and at the end of the day, Denny Hamlin just happened to be the victim of it.
Steve?
Well, was this the one where you did the can opener on the side of his car?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now check me if I'm wrong, Scotty, but I listened to Radioactive, and, he had a choice to make because Ware pretty much was in the middle of the track when he was spinning.
His spotter told him to go low.
I told him to go low. I mean, that was the spotter's fault. Spotter turned him right into it. I mean, don't put that on Cody Ware. I mean, like Ryan said, Jesus, here you go again, Mr. TMZ. You're trying to create another
bullshit.
Cody Ware, like half the cars in the track. I mean,
but that's bullshit, Steve.
William Byron comes out and trashes his car on the second lap of practice and has to go to a backup. A lot of guys were wrecking their cars, like Ryan said. He wrecks his car in a race with 39 other idiots out there with him. And the spotter says, go low, go low, go low. Well, okay, it's a 9-degree bank straightaway that he's on by then. What's going to happen to those cars as they slow down and start sliding? They're going to go low.
Yeah, right.
I mean, right now, if I was Hamlin, I'd be looking for a new spotter before I'd be looking to piss on Cody Ware. Which brings me to another point about this, and we talked about Cody Ware. We talked about this a little. Should these drivers be constantly just moving out of the way and letting, other cars just blow by them? We talked about this, the fact that by the time you get to Phoenix, you're going to have 36 cars running the high groove against the wall at Phoenix and 4 cars getting to run the low groove wherever they want to. Because nobody's going to get near those 4 cars. Take everybody off the track and let the damn 4 cars run for the championship.
Well, Steve, I'll say this.
36 cars in a heat race.
I'll say this, Steve. I think if you're on the lead lap and you're fighting for position and you're in the top 15 trying to get in the top 10, or you're in the top 10 trying to get in the top 5, or you're trying to win a damn race, then no, don't just be letting people pass because they have a run on you. Block them, do whatever you need to do. But when you're 2 laps down at the end of the damn race and you're running in the middle of the racetrack and there's obviously a faster car coming up on you, get the hell out of his way.
All right. Hang on now. Was Cody Ware the only car 2 laps down?
He wasn't, but he was the only car.
He's racing other people too. And the dollars he's going to win from moving up 2 spots probably means more to his team than moving up 2 spots means to Hamlin's team.
Yeah. And he wasn't racing them. I mean, he wrecked.
He wasn't racing.
He came down to turn 4, and that's where he wrecked. And it just happens. Yeah, it just happens. I mean, like you said, it was ingredients for something bad to happen, and Denny Hamlin caught up in it. I'll tell you this. I mean, I'm a driver of Kyle Busch, obviously. It was a couple years ago, Garrett Smithley was told to go high. Instead, he goes low. Kyle Busch rear ends him and rants, and everybody gets on Kyle Busch for ranting about Garrett Smithley when he legitimately stayed right in the middle of the track. So, to me, you're going to have lower series drivers. I don't think that you should worry about making this way too exclusive because at the end of the day, sponsors put money on these cars to run races, and as long as we tell sponsors if they want to sponsor a NASCAR, then they're allowed to go out there and race. Now, if it's like Anthony Alfredo, who legitimately wrecked every single race, then at that point you go, okay, this guy's effing with our competition and it's getting bad. But at a track like Dover, it's such a grueling all concrete tracks are weird, and shit happens. So I guess I give him a pass on this, and you're not going to hear me sing the praises of Cody Ware anytime anyway.
No, I don't want to sing the praises of Cody Ware. But let's take this one step farther, Joe. Let's take it to last year, I believe. What race was it at Bristol when Chase Elliott was 2 laps down? And
with Kevin Harvick.
Harvick pretty well put him 2 laps down. What did Chase Elliott do? He parked his car right in front of it and kept Harvick from winning the race. He wouldn't let him buy him in no way in the world. And so at that point, I thought, as much as I'm a Chase Elliott fan, Harvick, you have every right just bang him into the wall as hard as you want to. I mean, he's doing nothing but jacking you back and holding you back. And to me, that's where a driver needs to be punished or chastised or criticized for. It was not a cool move by Chase to do that. And like I said, I'm the biggest Chase Elliott fan there is. So I was not happy with him doing that at all. I thought that was Bush League. But what Cody Ware did is not Bush League. And what a lot of these lesser-known drivers are, they're not out there intentionally trying to wreck people or get in people's way. They're trying to run the race. Take 20 of those cars off the track, which are the 20 you're talking about, Joe, and you got an F1 race. You got a nice little 20-car parade instead of a 40-car parade. That means you got Cody Ware and all those 20 people in the bottom. They bring people to the track. They bring sponsors to the track. They bring people to the track. I don't like the fact that people get pissy like Hamlin immediately comes out and blames Ross Chastain. Hamlin did not, Truex. Truex did nothing but just rear end Chastain. There was nothing else going on there but that. I think we've already talked about that, but too much of this gets blamed on these lesser known drivers and these lower quality drivers. These guys are out there fighting as hard as they can. And like I said, moving up 2 spots to Cody Ware means as much as Hamlin moving up 3 or 4 spots too. So they're still racing.
I guess my biggest issue with this is maybe the conduct of Cody Ware last week when they were at Bristol. He gets pissed off at something Chase Elliott did. You remember that. He comes around the track and rear ends him, and he caused damage. And we talked about it a little bit last week where, I said that he had no business doing that with the position that he's in NASCAR and the position that Chase Elliott's in. And
but
then
that's
here,
a non-racing incident. That was during a caution.
I understand that. Maybe that's why I'm tore up on what he did to Hamlin, because I don't believe that. And I agree with you, Steve. You take 20 of these drivers away and you have an F1 race, and it's just a parade around the track like we used to watch at Kentucky Speedway. And I agree with what you're saying, but I think maybe I'm a little hard up on Cody Ware right now because 2 weeks in a row we have seen him cause issues in a race that he probably doesn't have any business in the first place.
Yeah, well, and I'm hard up on any driver, any older driver especially, that gets out there and just blames his failures right now, whining and crying about the lower quality drivers or the lesser drivers out there and blaming all their problems on those guys. Like Cody Ware's causing Harvick, Truex, and Hamlin to fail miserably. Those guys have just gotten not as sharp as they used to be.
I think
they're also capable of winning, no doubt, but with the regularity that they were, all 3 of them are not there anymore. Hamlin doesn't win like he used to win.
I think it depends on the incident too. I think, when you got a guy that's by himself, he wasn't side by side with him. Denny Hamlin had time to make a move, and like you said, he got bad intel.
Bad information.
And he ended up wrecking. If it's another situation where Cody Ware's 5 laps down, and he knows X driver who's in contention of this race is running a high line, and he decides to run it anyway, and then that said driver ends up losing a spot or something that way, I could see an opportunity to say, what the hell is this guy doing? You're just running laps, get the hell out of the way, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing when you're more than 5 laps down. You're just running laps.
Yeah,
so make yourself unaware.
My answer to that is, okay, fine, I get you, but you know what? Hamlin should be a good enough driver just to take you and go around him. He's got a faster car.
Those are very
go down to a middle lane and drive past the son of a bitch and flip him off as you're going by.
Right. All he would have to do is go
in the garage afterwards, like, hey, when you see a faster car coming at you, have a little bit of courtesy and respect and let us go.
Right, and that's the NASCAR even has flags for that. That's the reason why they have the blue flag, and they also do the blue and cross flag. That's saying faster car, get the hell out of the way.
Get out of the way, or slower car, get out of the way. Let him by. Yeah. But Hamlin, in a situation, and that was a bad example because he was wrecking when he hit him, when he got hit. But if it's just a case of a slower car track running the groove, the faster driver wants to run, hey, you know what? If he's not going to get out of your way and he's holding you up, if you're that good a driver, got that fast a car, drop down a lane and go around him.
Right, and that's just a situation
in the garage.
That's just a situation where I could see more relevance to the question versus what actually happened this week.
Yeah, that was a bad example, Joe. Very bad example.
Well, I'm sorry for bringing up a damn topic that happened in a race, Steve. And I agree that we have spent way too much time on Cody Ware today, and we're going to stop doing it. But you know what we haven't spent enough time on? Reminding everybody that the Grueling Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. How's that for shameless, Ryan?
5.
5?
5.
5.
It wasn't your best, but it was solid. I'm betting.net. We'll go.
Can we make a bet on or can betting.net find me a place where I can bet $5 that Cody Ware gets out of Hamlin's way the next time he sees the 11 car coming at him?
Yeah.
And the spotter says, I ain't telling you where to go. Just get out of wherever you are.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to find that on Caesars Sportsbook, FanDuel, or DraftKings.
Okay.
But if you want to check it out, you can head on over to thegruelingtruth.com and follow the links to those sportsbooks. That was shameless right there, Ryan.
Yeah, that
was actually the best one you've made.
he's
been that one. That's good.
Anyway,
let's talk about good NASCAR now.
Yeah, one thing. So, Steve, you and I talked after the race. Old Ryan here had to wait until he got off work to watch the replay because, he has a job.
I'm a man of the people. I'm a blue-collar guy.
Steve and I were able to watch it live, however. So we were able to talk about it just after the race. And, Steve, you made a comment. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I don't want to say you said it was a boring race, but you alluded to the fact that it wasn't very exciting. And I kind of wanted to disagree with you on that fact that I thought it was exciting. There wasn't a lot of action other than Cody Ware wrecking Denny Hamlin, keeping him from a top 10 finish. One thing that was consistent throughout the race that I thought, kind of had me on the edge of my chair and holding my breath, especially watching Chase Elliott the last couple laps, was the tire wear and people losing tires. That concrete just absolutely ate those tires up. So, I think that was kind of, something that I was watching for during the race that kind of played a part into race strategy. As a matter of fact, who was it that was running decent there in the last 10 laps and just lost his back left tire? Who was that?
That's a good question. I remember that, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah. There were several drivers who were cording like crazy. I mean, even Elliott was cording tires. I can't believe Elliott went 70 laps on one set of tires. And
it was Tyler. It was Tyler Reddick who wasn't running a bad race. Lap 233, he had to pit because his tires started coming apart. Austin Dillon 237, his tires started coming apart. So, I thought with where we were at with tires that, those last 5 laps, I know you're on the edge of your recliner or your couch, rooting on Chase Elliott, Steve, but I know that had to be in the back of your mind that anytime his tires come apart.
I was thinking about two things. There. One is some idiot going to wreck their car on 2 laps to go in the race, and he's going to have to fight off another restart. Or his tire's holding up because Larson was one of the guys that blew a tire and actually tore up, I think, the front of his car a little bit.
Yep.
Took his air plate out. And
when it turns into a weed eater when those cores come apart.
Yeah, and I think what they need to do in this situation, and I want to retract my statement about it being boring. Having rethought that, I was probably, when you don't get all the pageantry of the pre-race and everything and see all that, you kind of tend to think, you turn on at 9 o'clock and the cars are just firing up to just take off and go. They're just trying to get it. So I thought I like the pageantry and the build up to the race and then see the race. So bad comment. It was not a boring race. It ended up being a good race. The tire problem, I think NASCAR's really got to think about that, given this is the first time these guys still on a lot of these tracks with these cars. Need to either do extensive tire testing, and I'm talking about taking teams out there and having them make 70, 80 lap runs straight, see what it's doing to the tires, so they're better prepared, or they've got to give them more practice time so they can get some wear on a set of tires and see what point these tires start cording. Because the worst scenario you get is a scenario where somebody gets taken out because the tire blows, and then takes out a slew of cars, or takes out Hamlin again, or something like that. Lord knows we don't want to hit Denny Hamlin. So,
yeah. And I know a couple. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I do know that there were a couple teams toward the end of that race getting kind of concerned with how many tires that they had left.
Yeah, I think
Ryan,
everybody finished with a set left, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. Ryan, did you have a take on? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that what this race is meant for, when they built Dover and made it a 1 mile concrete track, I think last week, we got Talladega, so then trying to put this race in perspective is a little bit more difficult, and you have to think about what is entertainment versus what is racing. Talladega's entertainment. Is it the best racing product? Not really. It's really good entertainment, but at the end of the day, now we go to a technical track like Dover, where you got drivers legitimately going throughout these turns without hitting the throttle or babying the throttle. They also have to take care of these tires. And I think that Goodyear actually did okay with the tires because you had a cording effect versus complete blowouts. You don't want to have blowouts. Drivers can't control blowouts. Now, they can control a tire wear to where if it's cording, they know exactly how to baby it. They know how long it may last. But if you got like the Indianapolis race, I believe it was like 2008 or something like that, where they couldn't run 10 laps without the tires blowing up.
Right.
That's what you don't want. And I've given a ton of shit to Goodyear because at times they've put bad products for NASCAR, the highest level motorsports in the U.S. But I think at the end of the day, when you have this, you let the driver control how much he can push the car and how long the tire can go based on the way he's pushing the car. I would agree that if the tire was just plain blowing out and you just saw people spinning and slamming into the wall and it was ending their day, then that's not a good product. But I think what we saw early in the race with the Hendricks cars, and they mentioned it, was the camber of the tire playing more of a factor than maybe actually the tire itself. It was the setup.
Yeah, the setup of the cars. They got it fixed out. And also, I remember a point, I think in the second stage, they played it on the radio as one of the radioactive things, but they played it during the race itself, where Gustafson came on and said, "How are your tires?" He goes, "No." He said, Elliott said, "I can go faster." He's running like in third place. He said, "I got more power in this car.
Yeah.
I can go." He said, "But it's going to be harder on tires."
And he was like, "No. You
just saved those tires. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You're solid number 3 right now. We know we got the power if we need it. But you said those tires underneath that car are more important than you being in the lead right now." Because he was running pretty much by himself in third place. So,
and that really hits on how,
strategy,
which
like
a lot, a lot of fans don't see that or understand how complicated and how much of the technical aspect goes into actually winning a race. A lot of it has to do with driver ability, but a lot of it has to do with how well your team has thought about the strategy of the race. And as we saw, Ryan, ended up on the bad end of some bad luck. Kyle Busch mainly, pit under green, and why they're pitting. Caution comes out, and they essentially lose all their track position. So, do you want to hit on that at all, or do you just want to pretend like that didn't happen?
No, I think that what you saw is due to tire wear, you want to be the first guys to pit. And Bowman damn near sent the thing sideways because he was following Kyle Busch, because he knew if he was a lap later than Kyle Busch, he was going to lose 2 seconds. So he sent it almost ass in backwards into pit lane, trying to be right behind Kyle. Unfortunately, AJ Allmendinger loses a tire, which was a theme yesterday, and a caution comes out. The only thing that I'll say, and I wish we would get more evidence of this, is if a caution comes out, it freezes the field. That's it, no matter what. Kyle Busch and Bowman, who were 1 and 2, went into pit lane, and they're going to say that they got lapped and they weren't halfway down pit lane. I have a hard time believing that. And granted, I do obviously have some rose-tinted glasses, but it didn't just screw Kyle Busch. I think those were the 2 best drivers throughout the day after Hamlin got obviously beat up by Cody Ware. but I thought it took out two really, really good drivers by that. And if there's evidence out there that, they clearly got passed, the caution was thrown, it is what it is. Steve, you never have to worry about a late caution when the 9's out front, though. Only the 18 has to worry about that phantom caution whenever he's out front. So don't ever. If Golden Boy from Dawsonville's out there, there could be a 40-car pile up on the backstretch, and they're like, you know what? There's still laying down low that Chase can go through.
That's not true. There's the first year full time. Elliott lost multiple opportunities to win because of late cautions, and he wasn't really ready for the restarts yet. He wasn't trained. So, but they actually showed film of the start-finish line and showed whoever became the leader, and it was very close as to whether Kyle had passed the start-finish line in the pits yet or not. It was right on there. I remember.
Why does he have to pass the start-finish line? What's that got to do with anything?
That would be the last scoring pylon, because they measure the caution. They go back to the last scoring pylon, and if they got past that one,
I'm worried. I need to know where the guy is. Yeah, I don't care about if he wasn't going to be in the lead. They said he got lapped. I need to know where the leader was, if he already passed Kyle.
Yeah, they showed that, and it did not look like he got lapped. It did not look like he got lapped.
Well, and not to mention
they got
technology.
Yeah. Basically, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree. He did not get and if he was Chase Elliott, he probably would have gotten that break.
I don't want to go that far because it ruined two people. It ruined Alex Bowman too. And I don't want that to be lost on people that just listen to me because I'm a Kyle Busch fan. Alex Bowman had a great race. Again, he's the Hendrick driver. Nobody talks about. They only say, well, he's not doing that great. But then whenever he runs good, nobody says a damn thing. And Alex Bowman had a great race yesterday, and it got ruined just like Kyle Busch did due to that scoring.
Both of them got back into contention by the end of the race. Both of them were in contention. Both of them were
But that's something that hasn't been often highlighted throughout the season either, how bad the NASCAR scoring is as far as track position when they go under caution. Last week at Talladega, and I believe I kept saying that Bristol was last week. Bristol was 2 weeks ago. So I want to correct myself on that from earlier.
Get your shit together, Joe.
I get my shit together. But last week we saw the famed Bubba Wallace win a stage race that he did not win because it was scored as a win. And anybody watching the race knows he didn't win that stage. So
it was Larson, right? Wouldn't it have been Larson that would have won the stage?
Right. Everybody knows that has ever watched the NASCAR race and understand it, knows that Bubba Wallace didn't win a stage. But NASCAR gave him a stage. Much like this week, NASCAR put Kyle Busch and Bowman a lap down, and they weren't a lap down when the caution came out. So that's something that I think that NASCAR needs to work on and do a better job. And with the technology that we have to see where everybody's at in the track position, the minute that caution comes out, why do we need a scoring pylon, Steve? We don't need that. We don't have spotters down on the track for NASCAR saying, you made it to the pylon. They're not hand timing these cars anymore. So what is the point in having a scoring pylon? You can freeze frame the entire track to see where they were.
With one of the 40 cameras there.
Yeah, that's my opinion, I guess. But
I don't know if
you have an issue
pylons. They use the scoring loops, don't they? There's wires spread out across the track in different places. Tell everybody that. In case of a caution, we're going to go back to the previous scoring loop, and wherever that is wherever the cars cross that at is what the position we will line up again, and the position you will be given. So you may come out in that 50 feet that you got past, like it happened to Elliott on the last restart with Chastain on the high. Elliott was low and Chastain was up high. And they just took off, and Elliott was just about a half a car length over Chastain. But the next scoring loop, the previous scoring loop, Elliott was in second, Chastain was ahead of him, so they went all the way back to the previous scoring loop, which is probably right at the start-finish line, because it just had happened, because Tyler Reddick or somebody spun out almost instantly when they restarted. And they gave it to, said no, Chastain is still in the lead, even though clearly Elliott as you looked at it on film, Elliott was clearly ahead of Chastain's car when everybody started slowing down. The yellow was perceived to be thrown, but they say no, we don't use that. Be aware of that. We go back to the previous scoring loop. So they had not crossed another scoring loop. Therefore, the one behind them is the one they're going to use until they cross another one. So, and that happened to Elliott. So a lot of that is what that happens. And they've been pretty consistent using that as a reason and a judgment as to how they're going to reline their cars. Start of the restart.
Which I understand that, Steve.
I didn't understand it. It's the rules.
Right. And that my argument is they could stop doing that. That's an old, outdated technique.
They don't even have to start doing it.
They
could just use some transparency. I just need to. All they would have to do, it could be Fox or NASCAR on their social media site, because again, you're talking about one of the most popular drivers in NASCAR, followed by another really popular driver in NASCAR, the guy that followed up Dale Earnhardt Jr., and say, "Hey guys, we know there could have been some confusion with that last caution. This is why we made them a lap down." You show that, nobody has conspiracy theories or tinted glasses like myself, and the only thing we can do is question it.
Right, and that's a time for
that shouldn't be that hard.
Clint Boyer to start telling jokes rather than try and explain to people why that happened.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the downside of the broadcast booth up there with getting. And I like Clint Boyer, but getting a clown up there. McReynolds is pretty detail oriented when he's talking to non-clown people, and Mike Joy does a great job of just keeping things moving along, like Joe does not great job of keeping things moving along.
About?
So I agree with you. They could explain it more, but I think the discerning NASCAR fans, guys like you, I knew what was going on. I knew right away because I thought Chase was going to get the opportunity to choose what lane he wanted too, but then they said no. Even though he was in the lead by more than half a car on Chastain, we went back to the last scoring loop. In the last scoring loop, we scored the number one car in first position. So that's what they used, but it worked out well because Chase had dominated the lower groove, figured out the lower groove anyway. So it didn't really matter in the end anyway. And I think that the one thing I caution all of us on that is it's happened to all of our drivers getting caught in the pits. When it doesn't happen to your
that's
driver,
part of racing.
It's part of racing. So, but when it happens to your driver, it hurts because Busch was in line to win that race, or he was in line to contend for the win at the end. He would have been up there battling with Chastain and Elliott, and maybe Elliott wouldn't even have been there then. Maybe Chastain wouldn't have been there. Maybe it'd been Elliott and Bowman, or Chastain or Bowman and Kyle.
I think Bowman had a better long run car that he could end up winning that race. But on a track like that, when you make them have to pass 20 people in 50 laps, it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, a fifth and seventh best place finish was the best that they were going to get.
Yeah, but I buy the argument they used the last scoring. The scoring loops, they've made it clear the scoring loops run all the way into the pits. So they score They score you when you're in the pits.
I don't care about the scoring loop. I just wanted to see where the guy is. I just need evidence to show that this is where this guy was when we threw out the caution.
But where they are doesn't matter, because when they throw the caution, it doesn't matter. It's where they go, where they were at the last scoring loop. That's where
that's fine. I'm not missing the point. I need to see where the leader was for the last scoring loop. I never got to see that. All I got told was, and everybody on social media going, "Are these cars a lap down?" And nobody knew until NASCAR goes, Bowman and Busch are going to have to take the wave around. Right. We never got any evidence, and there's cameras everywhere.
Well, Steve,
if that's all they have to show. If they show evidence, nobody can contend with that.
You can actually, I think there's probably a site somewhere. I think I've seen them before, where they will actually show you where the scoring loops are laid down on every track, so where the scoring loop is. And at the start-finish line may or may not be a scoring loop. I don't know. I would venture to say it probably is, but they may not have gotten to the scoring loop when the actual caution. And remember, the caution is thrown also before the light comes on. I mean, it takes a second or two for somebody to say, they flip a switch, say caution out, turn lights on. That takes at least a second somewhere on the board. So in the tidiness of time you're looking at right there, that could be just a case of we see the light, think that's the caution when that light comes on. No, it's when they throw the switch that they stop the scoring, or they they lock the scoring down at that point in time and go back to the previous loop. The leader has crossed.
Well, Steve, Ryan, I think we can all agree that rules are rules. And speaking of rules, some people are getting in trouble this week. That just went right over both of your heads.
No, crew chiefs. Crew chiefs.
Yeah, some crew chiefs, some tire changers, and some jackmen that aren't going to be here for the next 4 races. Most notably, Denny Hamlin loses a tire just coming out of the pits. I believe who was the other driver? Was it Amarola?
Allmendinger.
Allmendinger lost the tire.
Amarillo. Amarillo.
Amarola.
Amarillo. How about how?
Did I say
Eric
whatever?
Amarola.
The point that Amarola, and the point that I'm making, I just said Amarola twice, Steve. I'm not saying it again. If you can't handle my Southern Indiana charm,
do you know where Eric Alvarola's from?
Oh my God, I don't care.
He's from Amarillo, Texas.
Quit it. Steve, you fuck me up all the time. Trying to make a point. You're talking about Amarillo, Texas, and the Armadillos.
This is the warfare we were taught at IU by Bob Knight. Just get in their heads real quick. It's pretty easy with a lot of people you're competing against.
I got high blood pressure. You're giving me stroke, Steve. And what the hell happened to him? He just quit.
Did he leave?
I don't know. But anyway, Steve, there he is. He's back. He's back with us. We lost him for a minute. Hamlin's gonna probably lose his crew chief, his jack man, and his tire rear tire changer or he lost his front tire, didn't he?
Yeah, it'll be his left front tire changer.
So he's gonna lose 2 or 3 people off his team. Who Reddick, did Reddick lose a tire as well? I think there were 3 or 4 that lost a tire.
I think Allmendinger did, didn't he?
Yes.
It was Allmendinger and Hamlin. Everybody else, there was a couple people with loose tires. Like Christopher Bell had a loose tire, but he never lost a tire.
Now, Allmendinger's the one that came out of the pits, and they told him, we don't have your tire tightened down. Told him take it easy. He ended up losing it on the track anyway.
He's the reason for the caution for the Bowman and the Kyle Busch.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now, we've hit on this several times during our weekly show, and I think we need to hit on it again. You suspend a crew chief, whatever. There's thousands of people in NASCAR that are qualified to sit on top of that pit box every week. But what I think really hurts this team, or hurts these teams, Steve, we talked about this a little bit on the phone, that you're putting in a new jackman, a new tire changer that hasn't been working with the team and is not in sync. I think that causes real problems week to week. I don't want to really hit on again how ridiculous I think the suspensions are for the tire. I think we all agree that loose tires are a dangerous thing. I think that NASCAR is a little overzealous when it comes to penalties. But as far as team cohesion, I think that could play some problems. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just the whole thought of, in practice time and game time, I'm sure those guys all rotate in practice because they practice pit stops all day long, 4 days a week before they go on traveling. But playing in a game is a different situation. There's more pressure on you, as everybody knows. I think it's going to throw them off. But I think just the comfort of hearing your crew chief on the radio to you is discerning. So, yeah, I wouldn't count it out because both those drivers that are involved, or at least Hamlin, he makes a lot of his own decisions in the car anyway. except when the spotter tells him to go low. And he listens like a beehive. So I think that it's just discerning to the whole team.
Ryan?
I can't remember a team losing a tire twice in a row in consecutive races. So, I mean, they're pretty professionals. Most of these teams got Xfinity Series teams. They'll just bring a guy up. So I'm not really worried about that. I think, again, we saw a really close situation where a tire almost became a projectile in this race as it was going down the backstretch. And I think that's why teams have to get over the fact that you're going to have to make sure it's secure. I don't care. It's a harsh penalty because we could have a very grave situation that we're talking about if that tire got launched up in the air, like it almost did on the backstretch. I mean, it almost took four cars had to get out of the way of one of the tires going down. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a rule. Your job is to put the lug nut on the tire. When you don't, you get punished for it.
So do you think that we need to dive into what could possibly be causing these problems with the loose tires? Because it has been.
Yeah, they're trying to go really fast. That's it.
They're trying to go really fast.
It up. Yeah.
But I think that this has been more of a problem this year with the single lug nut than we've seen with in the past years with 5 lug nuts. Yeah, we had problems with tightening down all 5 lug nuts, maybe tightening 3, but we weren't.
And you know what changed, Joe? You know what changed when we did 5 lug nuts and they made a penalty if you only had 3 tighten? Our pit stops went a second and a half slower after that because crew members now made a valiant effort to make sure that at least 4 lug nuts were tightened on the car. And you're also talking about 1 versus 5. So the difference between 2 lug nuts not being tight on a car versus 1, obviously there's a big difference on, possible outcomes with that. They're just going to have to do better in tightening the lug nut. They're going to have to spend more time on it. If it costs you 1.5 seconds more to stay on pit road so that a car's tire doesn't come off, you're going to have to make that adjustment. We don't see the shit in all the other car series that have 1 lug nut tires. You just don't.
I agree. I don't dislike the single wheel lug nut. I think it's a good thing. I think we've seen pit times go down significantly this year. But, I know we're all on social media. Steve's back on Facebook, by the way, which is great. But, if you scour
get back off of it.
if you scour
2 days of it, I've had enough of it.
So, yeah, Steve is now questioning whether a man could be pregnant and how many genders there are. 2 days on Facebook,
that's
he
Mike.
forgot all about it.
Doing that, not me.
So the question becomes, did NASCAR make the right move by going to the single wheel lug nut or not? Because if you scour the social media sites and you talk and you read and read fan suggestions, it seems like most fans think that the single wheel lug nut is a bad idea. And I don't know if that's because it's affecting their drivers or they just don't understand the complete concept of what it was supposed to improve. So do you think it was a good move or a bad move by NASCAR, Ryan?
I think that's a more valiant argument that what's the purpose? You go to a bigger tire and then you only have 1 lug nut. I would argue, shouldn't you have more points of contact with a larger tire? But number one, fans don't like change. So if they see something not immediately working, they're not going to like it. I didn't like the tires. I didn't like the fact that a guy could blow a tire and had to get pushed back into the pit lane. But thank God we've got that fixed. So, I don't worry about that anymore. I think if they would have kept 5 lug nuts, I don't see why it would have changed. We've seen a little bit of change when it comes to the pit stops, but at the end of the day, most of these guys are waiting for gas on tracks that need, full tanks. So I think you can make a bigger argument. Was it a necessary change? And right now, I don't know if that what's more beneficial, 1 lug nut versus 5. I will, argue with you when it comes to the punishment, but when it comes to 1 lug nut versus 5, I think that's open to debate.
Very good argument. Steve?
I'm fine with the 1 lug. I mean, I grew up 1 lug nut in IndyCar racing. So, that's the only way really until I started watching NASCAR, I'd never seen 5 lug nuts on a race car. It'd always been one lug nut. So I think it just takes time to get it down. I thought at one time I had heard with the bigger wheels, they needed to go to the one lug nut system for some reason, although I cannot validate that. I just thought I'd heard that somewhere because I questioned in my own mind, not publicly or anything, why they were going from 5 to 1-2 based on contact points. But I don't know if there's something engineering wise with the aluminum alloy wheels and the one lug nut. I don't know.
Well, let's put
don't
it this
know.
way, Steve. On your Escalade that has 24-inch rims, I bet it has 5 lug nuts.
I don't have an Escalade and I don't have 24-inch. I got a Ram.
He got spinners.
With a Hemi engine in it, yes, and I have 20-inch wheels, and they have 5 lug nuts. I don't live in that part of LA.
He's got 30-inch. He's got 30-inch rims on his Ram, and as we talked about before, he's got that nut sack that hangs down off the bed.
No, I don't have the nut sack. You know what? You've got some kind of fascination with the nut sack because that's all you talked about every show you've done. You got to get over that. You're scaring me.
I know. I got to quit.
I've got 20-inch chrome stock wheels from Dodge or from Ram, actually. They're, they came with the truck. They look nice. And, they have 5 lugs on them. Actually,
the only thing I would argue,
they do not have 5 lugs.
6.
You know what they have? 6 lugs.
Yeah. So what I would argue with you, Joe, if I was going to be for the 5 lug nuts, 6 lug nuts, whatever, this is still called stock car racing, and adding 1 lug nut makes it less stock car.
Yeah. That's a good argument. I'm not even going to argue.
Yeah, there ain't nothing stock about these cars anymore. Yeah. We know. I mean,
there ain't nothing stock about stock car racing, right, Steve?
Right. That's right. Yeah. You know what movie that was from? You know what movie that was from?
No, I don't. I was mimicking you last week.
You know what movie it was from, Ryan?
I don't.
Days of Thunder.
Harry
Hyde.
That's great.
Get off the gas, Cole.
Cole, you got a perfectly matched set of tires. They can't hold you on the outside. Huh? What? You can't take him on the outside unless you're Denny Hamlin. Then your crew chief's going to tell you to go low. Your spotter.
Let's move into our last topic for Dover.
Well, did we agree? I'm just going to make this comment. I think 4 weeks of suspension for all 3 is harsh for that penalty. It's in the first year. I'm going to give him the first year. It's like I give him a penalty. I agree. Something more than just start at the end of the lead line, because even when Bowman and Kyle got caught, hell, they started 17th and 18th because they got longest lead of the lead lap cars because they'd come around on the wave around. So they didn't start at the end of the pack. They started 17th and 18th. They were in the middle of the pack when they started. So they never went all the way back. So 17th
Thank
or 18th.
God.
Yeah,
I had
but
broken
17th or
stuff
18th,
in my house.
mean, there were other guys that were running back there too. I mean, sometimes Elliott dropped out of the top 10. It was running 14th or 15th.
Yeah.
And then he got back up in there. So that's not that big of a penalty. But do you think, Ryan, that 4 weeks is too harsh for all 3?
I don't understand it for the Jackman. I don't understand why he's getting suspended.
Aren't you kind of taking some safety issues away there?
That, to my mind, like the more people, I think you take away the guy that's responsible and you find the crew chief. So if you take away the guy that's operating the gun, I understand that.
But,
he failed
but
at
what
his
if the
job.
gun malfunctions? What if the gun malfunctions and it just goes? I mean, it just happens. I mean, hell, those damn. Let's
that's
get
what happened.
He would.
You know what?
He would have to
create
prove that
electric
every
air guns
single.
now. They can create electric guns now that have as much power as an air-driven gun. Get rid of the hoses. Get rid of the air pressure. You want to modernize the damn sport? There's electric drills and electric guns that will give you as much torque and power as will that air hose. Why does the NASCAR want to make that move?
I don't know.
Good question, isn't it?
I mean,
I think the first electric car went 10 miles an hour. It was built like in the 1910s. Okay, right after electricity came out, somebody figured out how to put 25 batteries in a car and run it off the batteries rather than put a combustion engine in it. Now we got Teslas and Ferraris and Lamborghinis that are all battery powered that go 250 miles an hour. All right, air guns, electric air guns can, charged air guns can hold their own now and do the job, especially with just one lug nut going off and on.
I don't disagree.
They torque up tight enough. They'll get that lock on there tight.
I don't disagree, Steve. And somehow lug nuts turned into a history lesson on electric cars. Ryan, what did what questions did you have for me?
No, I was just going to make a statement. I don't know if we were going to talk about this or not, but last year Speedway Motorsports bought Dover, and there's been a lot of talk that Dover may not be on the schedule next year. I think what we've seen so far with what's happening in NASCAR, it's not the track that was the problem, it was the car. And we've seen Fontana turn into a good race. We've seen, other 1 mile and mile and a half turn into a good race. And Dover was one of those tracks that used to be a good race. And if NASCAR fixes the vehicle, it's better racing. And I think, that was another great thing that we saw before the rain came. There's a lot of people that came out to Dover, probably one of the best crowds that they've had. And NASCAR attendance is up. NASCAR attendance is up 20% at the track. So I think that the car itself has made dividends in the pocketbook, because if you bring out a good car, fans will come back to the sport. So I hope Speedway Motorsports looks at this and does not, because they already took away both. It's only one date now for Dover. I hope they look at this and say, you know what, Dover deserves to be on this track, because we have a car now that's not just slammed down the gas at 550. It requires some technical skill, and it's made entertaining racing back to what I grew up on really loving about NASCAR.
Well, that's one thing that I'm glad you hit on, because we're going to miss it, and we do need to move on because we're over an hour now. But the car actually did exceptionally well on that course this week. Last year, the last couple of years, you were seeing lap times up around 24 seconds. I think the average lap time was just over 22 seconds this weekend. So, I mean, the car did amazingly well at the track. Other than the tire issues that I think we saw, I think the next-gen car came out a winner at Dover. Steve, I'm going to give you the last take on the race at Dover, since you're driver one, and we're going to move on to Darlington.
I thought it was a good race. I mean, notwithstanding that the 9-car won, I mean, that's a cherry on top of the cake for me, but it just sounds getting to watch a NASCAR race on any given Sunday or Monday. It's always fun every once in a while to get a Monday race, because it's kind of a great way to start the week out. So when your driver wins, what a great way to start the week out for, if you're a NASCAR fan. But I thought it's a good race. I hope they don't think about taking Dover off any more than they've taken it off. I think now they need to think about bringing back the second race. I thought these cars handled this track well. They handled the concrete well. The problems with the tires we talked about were more camber driven than they were really actual malfunctioning in the tires. So I'm pleased. I would be looking forward to another Dover in the fall.
Yeah, so would I. So that's a good take. Let's move on to Darlington, though. We got to moving right along. Heading to Darlington this week, Steve. A couple of weeks back, we did our show on Martinsville, and I want to correct you on a point. I've already done this, but you thought that Martinsville may have been the track that was kind of had its odd shape because a farmer didn't want to sell a pond. That is actually Darlington. That is the reason why you get the egg-shaped track at Darlington. Turns 1 and 2 are much wider. You come down into 3 and 4, and it's a little skinny turn. When the track, the property for the track was purchased, there was a farmer there that owned a minnow pond who did not want to sell her property to relocate his minnow pond. So instead of having 2 equal turns at each end of the track, you end up with an egg shape with a wide turn and a short turn. And that has proved to be one of the main features at the track that just gives driver fits. So I'm looking forward to this week's race at Darlington. Ryan, why don't you tell me what you expect to see this week?
Well, I think Darlington is probably technically the most advanced track on the circuit. I think, when you're known as the Lady in Black and you're known for having a Darlington stripe, that means the best drivers in the world are known for scraping the wall. And that's not something we talk about at any other track. We talk about wrecks and we talk about things of another sort about, what happens to these cars. But you're going to see multiple cars. You're going to see the best drivers in the world struggle for 400 laps to contain a car without hitting the wall. And I can't think of another track that we do that at. I mean, we had a lot of off-throttle time at Dover. That's on steroids at Darlington. And for somebody, again, if you love technical racing and you dive into what this sport's really about, and it's not just turning left and mashing the gas, you'll love Darlington.
Good take. Steve.
Yeah, I would agree with what he said. It definitely, it's got good banking. I think 25 and 23 degrees, 25 and 1 and 2, 23 and 3 and 4. And it's got good banking. It's a fast track. It's the oldest existing track. It's the oldest race, or maybe it's the oldest race. That's why they do the throwback there, apparently, is what I saw on the NASCAR show today I was watching.
This and Martinsville are this and Martinsville are the two oldest continuous running tracks.
Yeah. So, and you talk about this being one of the most technical races, Kyle. Now I want to call you Kyle, Ryan.
He looks like Kyle.
He does, and I have no problem. I love Kyle. I don't love Kyle Busch. I would like to love Kyle Busch's wife. That's a whole different story.
And Kyle Busch was delivering the mail in Switzerland County about 32 years ago.
Was he? I thought he was playing with his brother in Las Vegas, but what do I know?
Sorry, Dad.
That was terrible. I should.
You talk about Darlington being a very technical track, and it is. But yet it's one of the oldest tracks and one of the oldest races in the sport. So, newer is not always better. Sometimes you can't just beat the Lady in Black in the track. And as you said, this track probably gives most drivers more fits than any other track they run on. It used to be the Southern 500 and Labor Day weekend was the crown jewel of NASCAR, especially before they built Daytona. And then when they built Talladega, but still, it was their premier super speedway race. It's considered, if I'm not wrong, Darlington's considered a super speedway in the lore of NASCAR.
I don't know if you can. I mean, the banking in turn 1 and 2 is 25 degrees. Turn 3 and 4 is 23 degrees. What are you looking at Talladega for banking, Ryan? That 29-degree banking?
I'm not going to lie to you. I have no idea. I just know they don't use a restrictor plate, so I don't consider it a super speedway or a tapered spacer,
I would not consider this a super speedway.
All right. Well, I've heard.
I think it was a super speedway design racetrack before super speedway design racetracks existed.
In various shows and legends and lores and old timer shows, I've heard Darlington called one of the original super speedways. That may not be fit the bill anymore.
And you get there. Well, you get good speed there, and I think that's what causes so many problems. Obviously, you come out of that wide turn 1 and 2. Now with speed, you slam down into the straightaway, and then you come up on essentially a hairpin turn at those speeds.
However, what I've gathered watching all of the Talladega, the Darlington races, the high groove right up against the wall is the fastest way to get around that track. Mm-hmm. But then that's where you get your Darlington stripe. You're going to slide going that fast, going that high, being that close to the wall, running it lap after lap after lap. You're going to scrape the wall. And that's where they say you ain't a NASCAR driver till you've earned some Darlington stripes, and you got them on your car.
Before we get it, go ahead.
So I think that it's a very fun race. It's one of the funnest races to watch, because it baffles drivers. A lot of drivers get frustrated. They take it out on other drivers. Usually you get some bumping and banging going on. And it's a lot of times carnage at that track. And really it produces a mean cuss wins that race more times than not.
Let's do a little Darlington trivia. Steve, without looking it up.
All right.
Do you know who has the most wins at Darlington?
David Pearson.
Good. You know how many he has?
10.
Hey, good job.
Yeah,
Ryan.
Yo,
Ryan, who has the most top fives?
the most top five. I don't know who has the most top fives. I'm going to go with the guy with the most wins. So I'm going to say David Pearson.
No.
But I don't know.
I'm going to go with the guy that's got the most wins in NASCAR. And one of the longest drivers all the time. I would say Richard Petty probably.
Man.
Most top tens.
Steve, your NASCAR knowledge astounds me. That is absolutely correct.
I studied it.
Couple more questions. Do you know who has the most top tens? Either one of you, buzz in.
Most top tens?
Yeah.
Oh, I know this. I know this because, it's the dad of my boy. I think that's Bill Elliott.
The awesome Bill from Dawsonville. You are correct. Bill Elliott has 35 top tens. And we will, we're going to end this with one last trivia question. Who has led the most laps at Darlington?
Oh, that's
Bubba
easy.
Wallace.
No. Steve, who do you got?
Dale Earnhardt. That's a no. Everybody knows that. They talk about that because that's why the 3 Wrangler always leads the parade lap.
That is correct, Steve.
Yeah, of course.
Steve, how did you know all those answers off the top?
I watched NASCAR Race Hub today. They talked about all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah, they gave you the historical facts on Darlington.
Oh, it's not because I sent you the answers so we can make Ryan look like an idiot?
No, you sent answers?
Stop it, Steve.
Did you really?
You know I sent the answers, Steve.
No, I did not know that.
What was that one game show back in the day that the guy kept winning? He was being fed answers.
The $64,000 question.
Yeah, we just did that to you, Ryan, and it was fun.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our. I thought I was answering the questions on my knowledge.
Steve, then that is amazing. One last question, then, Steve. Who has completed? Look at him looking. Who has completed the most laps at Darlington?
Well, I would say that's probably the Iron Man in sport. And the Iron Man is maybe going into the Hall of Fame this year. Probably would be Ricky Rudd.
Holy shit, Steve. Your NASCAR knowledge is incredible.
Thank you. That's why I'm on the show.
I don't know how he found the headset to fit his head with all that knowledge.
I don't know how two panelists like us get to sit here and do a show. Which is
you guys are nice guys. I'll drag you along. Hang on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our picks and close the show out this week. We're getting a little long on time here. Who wants to go first this week?
On time?
Yeah, a little long on time. Who makes that?
That would be all the answers right there.
It makes sense why they would have...
The time we put into the skits for this show, I tell you.
Hey, it makes more sense knowing now why they would have Richard Petty and Bill Elliott during the segments for the race this weekend.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, it does. So
Bobby Labonte, not so much now, but
what about Terry? Let's not forget about Terry.
Yeah, Terry's vanished. She's not. Is Terry in the Hall of Fame?
No. Well,
just Bobby?
I think so.
I don't think he is. I have it pulled up here, but I don't.
Terry's got.
Well, of course, Terry's got more wins. It's all about Terry. Let's get on to our picks, right. Steve. You want to go first?
No, you're number one. You go first.
I'll go first, and my picks for this reason. Well, we just talked about Darlington and being a very technical track. Sometimes the best drivers in the world can't tame this track. The track too tough to tame. Play on words there. So my picks this week are going to be old crafty veterans, at least 4 of them, that have driven this track multiple times and finished well on this track in the history of their racing career. So for that reason, I'm going to put Harvick in my top 5 this week. I'm also going to go with Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go ahead and go.
Go ahead.
I got Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Eric Jones. Denny Hamlin needs to show up. He has one top 10 outside of his win, so he needs to do something this week. And I agree with you. I think it takes some skill. I think, Christopher Bell and Eric Jones have had some success at this track, so I usually try to bring in some lower guys that I like to put in. Obviously, wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Reddick does good. Speaking of the high groove, he's one of those guys that runs it consistently. And my first person was Kevin Harvick for this track, but since I shit on you last week about him, I wasn't going to pick him this.
Well, I had no problem picking him again. Steve?
I'm going to go with Chase Elliott.
Sure
like I am. Go with him every single time. I think that he's a little bit of more of a technical driver than a muscle driver. I think the one thing about Chase is he can run the bottom groove. That keeps him often away from that wall. I don't know if you can run the bottom groove all day at Darlington and not tear your tires to holy hell. But you can spend some time down there and not face the challenge of that wall every time. So I'm going to go with Elliott. I'm going to go with Larson. I'm going to take Harvick and Kyle Busch. What is that, 4? Was that 5?
No, that's 4.
Elliott, Larson, Harvick, Kyle Busch, and I am going to go with William Byron.
You driver stealing son of a bitch.
Did I take yours?
You took Larson, Harvick, and Kyle Busch right away from me, which is okay.
Elliott's game changer. Did we lose Ryan?
I think he's beeping back in right now.
All right.
So.
I got to take a break. So you guys talk.
Okay. So let me make sure I got your picks right, Ryan, because you cut out on us. You got Bell, Larson, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Eric Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why'd you go with some younger drivers there?
I think Eric Jones usually has done pretty good at this track. And, I think that he's done well this year. I think he hasn't had the finishes at the end of the race to show all that, but I think he's run well. And also, I think Christopher Bell has had a really solid season so far. And again, is one of those other drivers that doesn't get a lot of praise for running on this type of track. So those are 2 guys that I went with. And more often than not, I like to try to go as much as I can against the grain every single week. I mean, any of us could just pick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs every week, but I don't like to do that.
And we probably do pretty good. Watching likes our picks this week. You can head on over to betting.net. Look for a good place to place a bet. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. So having said that, let's go ahead and wrap up the show. We will be back for a post-race show Sunday after the race. We haven't quite set a time yet. Ryan, I don't know. You got a couple big days coming up in the future here, and I don't know what your plans are going to hold, but we'll try to or what your future's going to hold for you in the next couple weeks. But we will try to come up with a time to do the post-race show shortly after the race.
Yeah, 9:00 for me, like we've been doing, should be fine as long as Mother Nature doesn't have any say.
Steve, 9:00 work for you?
Works fine. Well, it's 6:00 my time.
Okay. Post-race show then, 9:00 Sunday after the race. We will be back with you to bring you our thoughts from the Darlington race. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked our show, go ahead and like and subscribe on whatever platform you may be watching and listen to our podcast. wherever you could find major podcasts. At Spreaker or Google Podcast is my preferred place. Once again, this is the Grueling Truth NASCAR show. The Grueling Truth powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your bet on online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Guys, have a good night.